Hi everyone, this is Sunette here in this sole video to have a look at our relationship with words in real-time moments. What exactly does that mean? In this video, we're going to explore how it is that we can use very specific words to actually assist and support ourselves in moments when our minds and our experience within ourselves like suddenly unexpectedly really intensely change in a way that is so noticeable and obvious that there's that little voice inside yourself that comes up and says, do I want to continue experiencing myself the way that I am right now, or am I changing this? All right, so here, let's firstly have a look at an example and how you're going to be using words in two phases. Phase one, which is to identify or define your current experience in that real-time moment. What is a real-time moment? A real-time moment is, as you are walking through your day, doing your everyday life things, going from one moment to the next, from one place to the next, or one person to the next, getting things done in the busyness of our everyday lives. Sometimes have those moments, where we're kind of stopped in our tracks suddenly and unexpectedly when our thoughts and our internal conversations and our emotions and experience and feelings suddenly go all over the place. And so this is maybe one of the first things to become aware of, where within and throughout your day, you may have a general constant, within yourself and how you experience your own thoughts and inner dialogue and emotions and feelings. A constant meaning that you've got a baseline in the sense that, yes, your mind is busy and your thoughts are as well in terms of how you're thinking and looking and planning and projecting and, sometimes random memories and experiences pop up within you and, you go through your ups and downs, but, nothing that is particularly out of the ordinary. But then there are those moments in a day that are out of the ordinary, where you may have that one person, the one group or situation that happens out of the norm, out of the routine of how your everyday life usually goes. And oftentimes when that something different happens or when that someone different happens in your everyday life, that's where, our thoughts and inner dialogue and emotions and feelings can oftentimes play quite a role in becoming overwhelming, intense, unexpected, and unpredictable. All right. So have a look out for those moments. And our first step here, first phase, would be to define your experience that you're noticing inside yourself. Define it, meaning give it words or give it a word. So this process that we're going to be walking here is also going to ask of you to push yourself just that little bit more in becoming more responsive to and observant to and with your own mind and your experiences within yourself, where while you're observing that your thoughts and your inner dialogue and your emotions are, for example, becoming more intense and overwhelming and all over the place, you observe that and you realize, I've got to respond to this. I've got to do something about this. Because if I'm going to continue in this line of thinking and emotional experience, I'm going to really think myself and experience myself into an absolute inner chaos and an inner conflict, and I don't want to do that to myself anymore. All right, so within this, we firstly have to identify or define that current real-time experience, which is why that is real-time and why this is going to push you to be so observant and responsive at the same time and really fast at that. So in other words, let's say, someone, for example, there are a group of people in your office. And let's say that you were about to take a break for lunch. And as you were taking a break and busy preparing your lunch and, coffee or a tea, a group of colleagues kind of, walked past you, but brushed past you. Like with 3 or 4 of them, none of them acknowledged you, looked at you, said good afternoon. They were all like in this little clique, right? And, for a moment there, your inner experience, because it's not something that happened every day, your inner experience immediately went back to school memories of, when you had all the cliques and the in-groups and the out-groups and, just you had this rush of memories coming from nowhere, obviously coming from within yourself, but, it's not something that often happens. And you're like sitting there and a part of you wants to go into, that whole experience of being brushed off, of being excluded, of being left out, of not being a part of being alone, lonely. You just, everything, a Pandora's box opened up within you. Then take a deep in-breath and an out-breath, and you define your experience. And you have a look at what word comes closest to defining that moment right there. And let's say, feel left out, right? And now with identifying and having defined your experience, have a look at how and what word can you become and embody in that moment as quickly as possible to assist and support you to even just for that moment, shift out of that experience of feeling left out and correct yourself and so your participation and your living. Because, once you may have then gotten out of that overwhelming experience of being left out, you kind of click back to awareness and you realize, but, my colleagues, I usually sit with them, we usually communicate, we usually catch up, and this is not like them. So I may have just completely misinterpreted and overreacted within this moment. And then, getting up and deciding, all right, I, in that moment, felt left out based on a possible assumption and interpretation, because if I realistically, commonsensically, go back to all the memories of my participation with my colleagues, they've never deliberately created that experience or moment of, leaving me out or excluding me or, just ignoring me. So therefore, then deciding to rather let me be a part of, right? So then getting up and walking and going to your group of colleagues, for example, and start catching up and saying, hey, I noticed you guys were walking outside, seemed to be in like such a really, really, really deep conversation. Can I be a part of it? Share what's going on, what's happening, and then there, interestingly enough, you may just be surprised with what you may find in relation to the extent to which your own interpretations and assumptions and reactions of moments and of people can create in terms of, a consequence of your actual participation and relationships in reality, right? And I mean, this example also, a similar example from a case study that we recently walked with a particular individual. And, even for them, it was quite amazing just to see that, if they would have remained in, for example, a pattern of assuming or perceiving that they are being left out or excluded, then they would have, remained stuck in their thoughts and their emotional experiences. They would have isolated themselves, went into a form of an aloneness, depression. They could just see the domino effect of consequence in themselves. But when they decided to not accept and allow that emotional experience of being left out or excluded, and they actually included themselves or made themselves a part of, everything changed, and they realized that how they reacted inside their minds was more personal to themselves than it having anything to do with anyone in their environment. All right, so for this video, essentially assisting and supporting in showing you how you can use words in your real-time moments, in your everyday life moments, to assist and support you in your process of changing yourself immediately in a moment. And it would be amazing if each one of you listening to this video can gift yourself that opportunity in showing you that you can do this. You do have the ability and the capacity to observe and respond and change yourself in real moments immediately in your everyday life. So take up this challenge for yourself this week until we continue with our next soul video, where for this week, dedicate yourself to, start with identifying and finding, maybe start with 1, 2, even 3 moments in your everyday life where you notice that your thoughts and your inner dialogue and your emotions are going chaotic, hectic, all over the place. Remember to first identify and define the experience, give it a word so that you can identify essentially the problem. And then immediately after that, ask yourself, okay, what's the solution? What is the word that is the solution here that I can immediately become, embody, express, and do that will change who I am within myself and my relationship with people or the outside world in that moment. Exactly as with the example that we walked in this video, where the problem was the word left out. Immediately the solution was to be a part of. And then what did we do in the example was to immediately then stand up, walk to the people, and be a part of making self a part of that something or someone or group. Because it's going to be about a doing. You're going to have to do, live, and express the word that you're deciding to live, and assist and support you to change in those moments. But primarily, the goal for this video for this week is to show yourself how you are able to change you in a real-time moment by making a decision to do so, and within understanding, and identifying a problem, you can from there accordingly create the solution. Because oftentimes we tend to only stay in the problem, kind of dwell in it and on it within ourselves. We don't even define it. We don't question it. We don't look at it. We don't take that step to introspect it or investigate it. We just allow, So now it's time to have a look at how we can change the experience of ourselves, our relationships, moments, our everyday life by defining the problem, taking that step back and looking at it to not only understand and define the problem, but to take that step to be able to create a solution and create ourselves into a solution through words. And here also continuing, in fact, in having a look at how this video is a part of the previous series that we walked, which is self-creation. It's another example of how we can create ourselves in real-time moments through words. All right, everyone, thank you very much for joining us in this soul video, and we will continue next week. Thank you very much.